Welcome back to Growth Without Referrals, where we talk to operators and deal makers about what they're actually working to grow their business beyond just word of mouth. Today, I'm joined by Ken Miller from the BlackRose Group, and I've got to say this might be one of the best timed episode we ever have done. Ken literally just wrapped up a $64 million deal before jumping on with me, and so you're getting this conversation in real time. Ken, first off, congratulations. What was that like?
Well, Mark, I tell you, it was an extremely gratifying feeling because I put the whole deal together myself just by really understanding the culture of my client and knowing that there was only a limited number of groups that he was going to do business with because he's such a great young man. And there's this firm in Houston that has really great individuals in it, high character individuals, former Iraqi war veterans, officers, lawyers, and it was a match made in heaven. So really, once I made the introduction, my work was pretty well done.
Okay. And we'll talk a little more about that, Ken. But first, I want to get some of your background. How did you get into this world?
Well, I was in the capital markets going back to 1978. In that I was a wealth manager and an estate planner for 33 years. So I built an independent wealth management practice here in Lafayette, Louisiana, that became one of the big ones in town. We did quite well. But 2011, I got a little surprised with a cancer scare. And this was after the 2008 meltdown in the market. If you recall, that October was ridiculous. I had lost confidence in Wall Street to some degree and decided with the stress of recovering from cancer that instead of having 400 clients, I was better off having a different career. And I always liked the M&A space. So I sold my practice and actually started the group with the name BlackRose Advisors. And then after about 8 or 9 years, the partnership that I had with one gentleman there, he was retiring. And so in order to keep the brand name BlackRose going, because I was pretty much BlackRose, I just decided to change the name to the BlackRose Group. I thought it told a better story than BlackRose Advisors. Splitting hairs a little bit, but it was just the right thing to do at that time. And the name BlackRose comes from my 15-year-old daughter named Rosie. I named the business after her, and my first partner's name was Stanley Blackstone. So we just put Black and Rose together. One day I said, hey, what about this name? And he loved it. So that's really how the name was founded. I did that in September of 2012 is when I started BlackRose. And then I changed the name around 2019. Between there, I had a little stay at Colliers International. I was vice president of M&A for their entire North American operation for a couple of years, but COVID interfered with that job. And so we both just kind of went our own ways, and I just came back to BlackRose. And I've got now some real talent in London. I've got 5 young MBA students at the London School of Economics that are running my London office for me, and we're starting to get some traction in Europe. And obviously, North America is going to be our bread and butter, but there's middle market businesses in Europe, and they don't get quite the attention that the USA gets. So trying to be a little bit more global. I have my back office salaried employees are all from Karachi, Pakistan. Karachi, Pakistan. And so I've got offices in London, New York, Memphis, Dallas, and Lafayette. And now just recently opened up a small office in Austin, Texas, just really in the last couple of weeks. So trying to get some more producers in the business. It seems like when I'm not producing, things come to a screeching halt. And so trying to tweak the business model a little bit more to get higher quality deals. And of course, we're doing some direct marketing as well, LinkedIn, that kind of stuff, because you just can't rely on referrals in this business. I get a good many of them, but you still have to have new opportunities. Some of these deal origination firms are pretty good at it. So we just developed a relationship with a firm, and we start to, actually the call will be right after your call. And we'll start our onboarding today.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that $64 million deal. How did that opportunity even come into your world?
That was a really interesting and dynamic situation. It's based right here in Lafayette. So it was a hometown deal. And there's a young man here that, including the deal that we just closed with me last week, he sold two businesses between July of 25 and April of 26 for $157 million. And I I knew I wasn't going to I basically had to make some strategic decisions in representing the young man. And I decided that it was the industrial rental company that I thought I could sell and that I thought I could get him great value. And so 2 years ago, I made an introduction to the firm in Houston that I mentioned to you previously. And the principals of the firm in Houston, were just a perfect match for this young man. High character, Christian values, good family life, good husbands and fathers. And that's what I try to do, is match up people's values and culture to a buyer that shares those same values and culture. It makes the transition so much easier. 2 years ago, I made the introduction. I sat on it for 24 months. And then when I finally shook the tree, the timing was right. And literally, it started off as a $44 million deal. And then over 3 months of negotiation, the deal ended up at $64 million. I was floored. I really thought it was a $40 or $50 million deal, but it ended up being 64. And anytime a deal like that closes, it's just good for the firm. It's good. It's not only good for me, it helps the secretaries get excited. My deal team is excited. My analysts know they've got a little bonus coming. So, what you're trying to build here is a firm that feels like a family. And I'm a big proponent of that. Of course, there's growing pains, but I've been blessed. I'm
Excellent.
well over $300 million in closed transactions, and looking forward to the next one closing next month.
Excellent. So, Ken, most firms, especially in your world, grow off of referrals. Where does that start to break?
I don't know if it's ever a complete break, because when you have the years in business that I've had, which is now in the same community, I've been here for 44 years, fairly high profile in my first career. So good name recognition, particularly with the attorneys and the CPAs. And so I get my fair share of those. But what I've found is that if I don't have a reliable alternate method, I get large gaps in closings. And those are the kind of gaps that aren't good. So it's just kind of supplementing. You have to supplement your reputation and your name and your referral base to the general public. And some of these deal origination firms are quite good at that. So I think, to me, it's two verticals running at the same time. I'm always looking for referrals, and I'm also going to always pay to get some new opportunities, and then try to balance the two. Some days are better than others. Some years are better than others. I've been a little concerned this year with the war kind of mucking things up a little bit. So far, I haven't seen it, but normally, when you have geopolitical chaos, it's not always good for M&A work. So we're going to hunker down a little bit here and be smart about how we move forward.
Okay. And Ken, you touched on this a little earlier. So outside of referrals, what actually works for you today to generate deal flow?
It's kind of a game of numbers. I hate to get back to that old sales ratio: 10 good qualified leads, 3 good interviews, maybe 1 or 2 engagements. So I believe that using deal origination firms, an example is a firm called Metro Spear with Russell Pearson. We've just shook hands on a deal for him to generate some new opportunities. And he's young enough and hungry enough where I don't have to make a 4 or 5 month commitment. I'm kind of sitting in the catbird seat now. Everybody wants to work with me. Obviously, the deal closing is a big one. And the one next month, everybody knows about it as well. So I think I'm in a good position now where I can pick a firm, give them some latitude to do their job. But if after a couple of months it doesn't work out, I'm not going to continue to put bad money after bad money. So I think this deal origination firms are really important. Also, to be candid with you, I have a few other organizations that refer business to me. I've got a firm in New York City called Axial. They're very well known in M&A. And they just referred me a fabulous 2 million EBITDA restaurant in New Jersey that I'm now selling. So if you treat people right and you do deals where the buyer wins and the seller wins, and you do it for long enough, people start saying, those deals are BlackRose. Those are good deals. They stay on the books, and you hate to be involved in a deal that goes south. Has it happened? It happens to everybody, but it's not a good feeling.
Sure. Okay. What's something you're doing today that wasn't working 3 to 5 years ago?
Wasn't working 3 to 5 years ago. I think the organization. I think 4 to 5 years ago, I didn't have as much talent around me. I didn't have quite as strong a back office as I needed in order to do the buy-side work that I like to do. It's 50% of my work is buy-side work. So I think just having more talent around you, being more organized with that talent, and having people do specifically what they do best. I think most of us that own businesses, we sometimes maybe micromanage them a little bit more than we should. And I've learned the older I got to give people a little bit of latitude and let them do their job. And so I think maybe being a little bit less hands-on and more cooperative, I think, has helped me a lot.
Ken, what are you seeing in the market that others aren't paying attention to yet?
That's a real good question. I really think that we see so many more deals than the typical NA firm. My network is so global and so large that I probably am seeing 100 deals a week. So we're able to kind of select and really pick and choose the opportunities that we want to pursue for two reasons. Number one, certain businesses we know more about. Like we know the industrials. We know manufacturing well. We know business services really well. So we'll focus on the things that we do best. And I think a lot of people take deals that they shouldn't take where the seller is nowhere near ready to go to market. And it's just a complete waste of time. We just don't do that. I have enough deal flow where you kind of know those deals that have a lot of hair on them and those deals that just look to be nice and clean. And again, doing things right, selling a business that's ready to be sold, simple things like that just really go a long way. But I think you have to see a lot of deals like we see in order to be as successful as we've been. I probably say no to 50 deals a week that I don't even send to the back office. It's not even worth their time to research. Once you get a staff that's been with you for 4, 5, 6, 7 years, everyone starts thinking the same way. They start thinking the way that you think. And next thing you know, you have a little bit more smoother running operation.
All right. Excellent. So Ken, if someone's trying to grow beyond referrals right now, where should they start?
Well, I think they have to make an investment in themselves. I think it requires that reinvestment and that reinvestment into lead generation firms. Possibly what I'm doing now as well is I'm starting now that, again, we got the closing behind us, we're also going to do some more social media stuff that I have an incredible following on LinkedIn. I don't even know how I got it, but I'm not utilizing it properly. So I just hired an expert to relook at all my profiles, update all the web pages, be sure that we're using any AI that we need to use. And so I think, like any good business, you have to invest a little money into it in order for it to grow, unless you're just going to sit here and wait for the phone to ring on a referral. That can get very lonely sometimes.
Absolutely. And Ken, what's one mindset shift that changes everything?
Well, I think for me, talking from personal experience, because of the tough year I had last year, on a personal note, of course, it also carried over into work a little bit, is you have to have a short memory. And I try to not dwell on my failures and use the successes to keep me motivated. I think in 2024, if I look back and was honest, I took my eye off the ball from the standpoint of I didn't stay in my market. I didn't stay in the middle market. I got off on tangents with bigger deals with possible $2, $3, $4 million fees. And they were just an abject failure. I've tried it. It didn't work. And so really kind of getting right back to what got you success in the first place, being able to admit that, hey, took the eye off the ball. We can't do that anymore. For me, it was learning from my mistakes. That's the mindset shift that I made. I felt like, the results were clear that they weren't good enough. And the reason the results weren't good enough is that we really pursued the wrong deals. And we did it for the right reasons, but at the end of the day, it was just a complete failure. So I think being able to look yourself in the mirror and say, okay, you're not the hot shot you thought you were. You need to get back to basics. You need to get back to treating people the right way. You need to get back being out in public, letting people know, hey, I'm alive and well. I got a good team with me. And, it's really about that positive attitude, because people don't want to do business with someone that's, negative, or who looks like he's got his tail between his legs because he got his butt kicked or something like that. So I just felt like it was, you have to learn from your work, and you have to learn from what worked and what didn't work. And so for me, being more open to, again, AI, for instance, being more open to having people in their 20s and 30s with my firm, where I'm almost 70, a little bit different for me, because I typically like to work with people my age. But having the young blood in the firm has really reinvigorated me. And now I feel like a kid again.
It's excellent. I love that. Have a short memory.
Yeah.
Be reflective. Be able
Yep.
to look at yourself and
Yep.
evaluate honestly. Having clarity, focusing on what markets you should go after. I think those
Right.
are great.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Ken, this has been awesome, especially given the timing. If someone wants to connect with you or learn more about what you're doing at BlackRose, what's the best way to reach you?
The best way to reach me would be via email at BlackRoseGRP.com. The website's also the same domain, www.BlackRoseGRP.com. And we feel real good about the quality of the websites. We're doing things to keep our name in the same breath as the Peakstones and the Woodbridges and, some of the firms that have been bigger firms than mine, but we want to do things right. So if you go to the website or drop me an email, even if it's just to get some free advice on something, I'd love to do it. Thanks for asking.
Excellent. And for our audience, I will be posting Ken's contact information in the comments. But Ken, thanks again for coming on, especially after closing a deal like that.
Yeah.
And for everyone listening, if you're relying only on referrals, hopefully this gave you a different perspective on what's possible.
Thank you, Mark.